of these have AllSky7 orbits, or AllSky7 contributed to the orbit. And with this witness program, we've processed over 125,000 witness reports, over 25,000 events since inception. This was the first meteorite I ever found. It was Sutter's Mill. I found it after several days. It was a group find with 2 other guys, and I didn't have an agreement before we hunted, and so that got a little sticky, and I ended up having to buy them out, which was fine. I later donated this meteorite to Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles, California. It's still on display there. If you ever go to Los Angeles, you should check it out. Send me a picture. This is the second meteorite I found in my life. It was in a swamp in Florida. I was the first person to find the meteorite, and it was an X-rad fall as well. This was the radar signature. And when this happened, I decided that I needed to write a program that could automatically scan the radar to find these falls. And I did that. And then finally, I got into the ALLSky7 because, people just kept telling me, this fireball thing is not going to work well with witnesses, with the radar. Yeah, you're getting these meteorites, but you're not getting the velocity. You're not getting a real trajectory. You're not getting a real radiant. You're not getting a real orbit. And so all, directions pointed me towards the ALLSky7. And I wouldn't have been able to do it if I had not been coming to the IMCs for many years, hearing talks, seeing how other people's technologies worked. And I'm very appreciative of all this. And this is where we are now with AllSky7. It's really the AllSky7 Plus. There's 8 cameras in it now. I built this system because I really did not like fisheye lenses, and now we've come full circle, and there's a fisheye lens in the top of it. Thank you, Serco. But that fisheye lens actually serves a purpose for us to get better, intensity values. So here's our first fall that we want to talk about. It's the Georgia Fall. This showed up in our system, and what's really amazing about this is that one of our camera operators, I think I just died. One of our, hello? Hello?
1 2 1 2
1 2 1 2. Hello? Hello? Well, I'll just talk loud for people here. Hopefully online people can hear me still. So Junction City, a camera operator, Pat Branch, witnessed this fall on the AMS Meteor website. He immediately went to an AllSky7 station. He saw the observation. I hear that in this. Any better? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so this guy found it just without me involved, okay? He saw it on AMS. He said, ooh, that looks like a good fall. He went to the AllSky7, one station, which wasn't even his friend in the same area, got the azimuth value, went into the radar, saw the cloud, went in his car. 28 hours later, he drove into the meteorite. Not literally, but he was driving. The meteorite was in the middle of the road, and he found it in the dark at like 5 in the morning. That was the page that he used. This was the other observation that we have. And, this was Ed in the middle. He's the guy that ran two of the stations. This is Pat over on the left. This is Matthew Stream, another meteorite hunter. All 3 of these guys are part of the AllSky7 collection teams. And, over about a 2-week period of time, they recovered 2 kilograms, and it was about, I think, 2 or more dozen fragments. This is how our trajectory looked, and it was in very good agreement with the finds. Here, the green dots are the finds, the red lines are the trajectory. There it came back. Nice. So I did all this work after the fact, after already knowing where the meteorites were. I wouldn't call it cheating. I'm just saying it's like it validated the event. And one of the last challenges that I really have struggling with is just the dark flight code and having a good dark flight code. And so I have to do a lot of different things to feel out if my dark flight results are right or not. And one of them that I use is this wind rose circle that just kind of shows you visually where the wind's coming from. And if you look at this, you could say, well, hey, the meteorites probably should be on this side, on the east side of the trajectory. You know, what I'm doing now, and hopefully I'll talk to Adrian about this while I'm here, but I'm using the Desert Fireball Network dark flight code, which I appreciate very much. I appreciate that they have put it online, but I'm having just some trouble with getting it to work consistently. And I have to run multiple versions, multiple runs, changing the time every run. It's kind of complicated, and it may even be my user fault. But you know, what it ends up happening is it produces a very nice strewn field, especially when you already know where the meteorites are. You can get it to line up perfectly. The challenge now is, if you haven't found a meteorite yet, it's difficult to know which exact model is the best model. But it's a work in progress, it's fine. We also were able to compute, the orbit with Dennis Vita's WMPL software, which is also very nice. And that also has a component that lets you, determine your uncertainties, which even with just 2 observations, I don't know how accurate this would be, but we've done that. Now, Laplace plane was a little better data situation because we had at least 3 cameras, and we also had beautiful open desert ground with no real obstructions physically or legally. This is what it looked like from the closest camera. And this is one of the very important persons in this hunt. Joe Fransky is a friend of mine, meteorite recovery specialist. I like that title much better than meteorite hunter. But Joe's also known as a desert rat. He's someone that just has lived in Arizona his entire life, and he hunts meteorites for a living. He goes around dry lake beds looking for cold finds. He'll go to historic meteorites, and then he's also available to us, with these fresh falls. This is kind of where he lives in the desert when he's hunting. He also has a real house. But on Laplace Plain, he lived in this trailer for over 30 days. He would go to town once a week to get water and gas. And, Joe hooked me up with an ATV so that I would have my own ride while I was out there. And had I not had that, I would have not gotten very far. On my first trip, I was out there for, I think, 7 days, and it was very stressful because there was a lot of the stress of like the hunt and finding the first stones and dealing with meteorite hunters and kind of having my information compromised and different things. But I went back on a second hunt for 10 days. So between the two, it was 18 days out in this desert, pretty much by myself every day, walking around. This was they call it ironwood, which I thought was kind of funny. There was a lot of interesting things. You're bored. We talk about boredom, meteorite hunting. It's really a terrible activity to do. I mean, it really messes with your brain, especially when you're not finding something. So you start to get excited when you do find some things, like petrified wood. We would find. These were old 50 cal bullets that were shot off during World War II. For target practice. And there was a bunch of Indian artifacts too. They would have these rock piles. At first I thought maybe they were graves or something, but my buddy told me that they were actually work areas where the Indians would work these stones into cutting tools, arrowheads, jewelry. There was also really amazing sunsets, and of course meteorites. This one was found by Rob Matson. Had a nice olivine crystal in it. This one was found by Joe. It was the smallest stone. I actually have it right here. And then this one is mine, which I found. They call this underfoot. I found this underfoot, which meant I was driving around like this, And I stopped, and I looked down, and it was right there, right under my foot. And I had seen it before I stopped, and I was on my way home. You know, they said in the river talk, all the meteorites are found when you walk into your car. Yep. When you're not expecting it is when you find it. And that's what happened to me. This was
probably, one of the best moments of my life.
It was
really nice meteorite.
But it wasn't the meteorite that made me happy. It was the validation of my work. And this has taken like 15 years to get to this point. And it wasn't my first meteorite, but it was the first meteorite where I had all the information. I had the trajectory, I had everything, and I knew where to look. And that was an amazing feeling. Unfortunately, there's competition in this business. We can't have all the strewn fields to ourselves. And at the beginning of these hunts, it gets very intense. And also, there's just people that have different, say, codes of what's right and wrong and how they appropriate information or meteorites or different things. So these are all challenges that we have to face in the field. But, the landscape that we had starting out was we had the exclusive best info of anyone. And I still haven't published it, so I'm just going to say that the trajectory was somewhere around here, okay? NASA's trajectory was 10 kilometers off, but it was enough to let the meteorite hunters, one meteorite hunter, know where the radar was. And there was 1 pixel of radar. And so that guy, Rob Matson, found that. He told one of his meteorite hunting buddies, and he went out there. And my guy went out there, and within 12 hours of the fall, we were there in the zone looking. The other competing meteorite hunter saw my guy and knew he was in the right zone. And he continued to hunt, and he found the first meteorite, which is fine. It happens. A few days later, I arrived. We were hunting. There was just a few of us. It was really great. Then the guy who found the meteorite decided to tell everybody on Facebook. And then a massive storm of people came in, and different websites like Strewn If and others, started to appropriate information. And then these guys were so far off, like they were hunting over here, and we were all where the meteorites were over here. Our dark flight model was here, the meteorites were there, the radar was there, and there was not much competition. But they, after a couple of days of not finding meteorites, they decided they were going to come spy on us and basically appropriated where we were and came in and, just didn't really even find any meteorites. It was more of a nuisance. But these are all things that just happen in a meteorite fall. It's all part of the game. And when you look at meteorite hunting like it's a game, it might change the way you feel about it a little bit. And, since we're talking about games, football anyway, it's football season in America. And, I'm wearing my Baltimore Ravens shirt here today. If you think about rarity too, I want to make an analogy between, rare things. And in America, probably the rarest thing people could think of is a Super Bowl ring. Okay? This is a ring that goes to the team that wins the Super Bowl, the best football team every year. Now, in the history of American football, there's been 57 Super Bowls, 53 players per team. So you're talking like maybe 8,000 or so. I messed this up, sorry. There's 53 players per team, but there's 150 rings. I actually have a different version of this presentation that didn't make it out. But the point is, of all the Super Bowl rings, there's 8,000, okay? Only about 3,000 of those are for the players. Now, if you contrast this with meteorites, there's 1,400 meteorite falls, roughly, in the history of mankind, okay? There's only 50 of those, roughly, that have orbits. Okay, so all of these falls are a race to find that first meteorite. And whoever does it, is accomplished a great thing, right? The meteorite hunting is a high stakes game. And, there can only be that one finder. But there are many winners. If you find a stone, you win. And if you don't find a stone, you win. Because you're that much closer to finding. You have to not find before you can find. And it took me 3 years of not finding meteorites before I finally found that one. Okay, so Rubik, we've talked so much about, not really going to talk very much about it. This was Circo's picture, sorry. we're gonna just, oh man. All right, they don't want to show the picture, so I'm gonna show the Frippon picture at the same location. So this was the Frippon stack. This is the AllSky7 stack. And this is really just a difference between a fisheye lens or a wide field camera lens. And you know, a big reason why I built the AllSky7 is because I don't like fisheye lenses, because I don't like the way they make the meteors look. It's purely like an aesthetic preference. Anyhow, we were able to compute the Ribbick trajectory very quickly. Circo called me at 7 p.m. on a Saturday after I had been working from 7 a.m. already. So I put in my 12-hour day, sitting on the couch. I'd already eaten dinner. I was getting ready to go to sleep. We have an impactor that needs to be computed immediately. Da, 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 da. So I continued to work until about 3 in the morning, and I sent them the trajectory. I hadn't computed the dark flight. I knew Pavel and his team would be doing it, wouldn't have the time. And I said, look, go towards the end, do your best. We'll have more information later this afternoon, which we did have. And, you know, we had perfect information from Pavel's team within, I think, like he said in his talk, within like a day or two. Finally, our New York City event. This was, again, very great event for me because no one knew, okay? This happened in the middle of the day. Millions of people saw it. Millions of people were like calling the news stations and all this kind of thing. When I checked my email, I had emails from NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox News, CNN, New York Times, everyone. NASA had already gone out publicly and said, this meteor burned up, did not survive. I was like, that's great, because I had one email that said, a meteor has struck our house. Please call. And so you know, I called, hey, this is Mike Hankey from the American Meteor Society. I got your email. Tell me what happened. They told me. But basically, carbonaceous chondrite went through the roof, and it hit the guy's bed right in his pillow, and it shattered in the ceiling. So the roof, you know, there's a small hole in the ceiling, or in the roof, and then a huge hole in the ceiling. You looked up, and it was just like out to the sky, and there was black dust and black fragments all over his bed, all over the floor, it was just the most incredible scene I've ever experienced. You know, I got to meet him in person. He showed me this room, and you know, he's a private person, and he just wants to do everything privately. I was perfectly fine with that. And we hunted. I brought in a couple meteorite hunters. We hunted the area for 10 days, found nothing, and you know, I can only conclude that it was very weak meteor. I think a lot of it disintegrated, and what made it to the ground probably was ruined within a day of rain, or a few days of rain. So there was just the one fragment. It's at Houston now, being classified, and that's pretty much my whole story. I had a different presentation slightly that had a football coach getting doused with Gatorade. And I was going to say, you know, when the teams win, you know, they praise the coach, right? Because they wouldn't have had that win. Now, I don't have a Super Bowl ring, and I don't have a bucket of Gatorade, but I do want to present this meteorite from the Plosive Plain to Pavel and the Czech Academy of Sciences as a gift and an appreciation of our collaborations over the years. And
thanks a lot.
And because you guys won the Super Bowl this year. All right?
That definitely deserves 2 extra minutes that Mike has taken. We have time for one short question, if there is any. Pavel has no question because his voice is gone for the next minutes. Antal. The photo of the pillow of the bed of the last meteorite.
So the guy doesn't want to share the photos yet, But the stone is being, the guy doesn't want to share any information or photos yet, but the stone is being classified, and when the classification's done, he's going to do a press release, and he'll show all the photos, and there's going to be a nice full story that's put out. So they're being thorough about it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.